Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Lim. Welcome back to another episode of the MSNS podcast.
My name is Toby Lin, and today we have the wonderful Joe Santos.
Hi, I'm Dos Santos.
Yes. How are you doing, Joe? I feel like out of all the people I've talked to in my 2 years of USF, like we only talk like one other time, but I feel like out of everyone, I feel like you've been like the busiest person I've ever heard of in my entire life, honestly.
I don't like to compare other people. Everyone has their different standard. My situation's a lot different. Um, yeah, I definitely have a lot on my plate, but that's by choice. Well, kind of by choice.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. But like what you were talking to me before, it's like you said it was part of the passion. Like as much as it's, tiring, all the stuff that you have on your plate, it's something that you truly love to do. And because it's something you truly love to do, like does it really feel like work?
Oh no, definitely. I think we all know it. Anyone that's listening to this podcast, they're most likely a nursing student. So you guys know how much time it takes to prepare. It's all preparation. Going to class is one thing. It's you really get to work when you start studying those slides, start reading that book,
Mm-hmm.
start reading those case studies. But it's when you're doing something you love, it's just you don't really feel it too much. I feel it, but I don't feel it as much
Mm-hmm.
because there's a goal that I want to reach, and as long as you have goals, it makes everything a lot easier.
And you're in the 4+1 program, right?
Yes.
How's that going? Because I don't think I've ever really talked to anyone who's been in the 4+1 program. How does that work exactly? Like I know like starting junior 1 or junior 2, you have to like apply for it, but then like after that, how does that blend in with your regular like BSN or undergraduate duties?
Well, the beautiful thing is most of it's online. So when you're in the spring or fall semester, you're usually just doing one class. It's about 2 or 3 units. It's online, so it's self-motivating. They give you ample time to finish your work. It's a lot of busy work, but to be honest, if you have the ability to do it and you have most of your course done by the time you get to junior 1, then I say go for it. It's a lot of busy work, a lot of APA. So it's like
Oh gosh.
I think I'm spending more time checking my APA than my actual work, to be honest. But it's almost all online. Like I finished 9 units this summer with my advanced patho class, finance, and my assessment class, and it was pretty easy. It just takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the ability to self-motivate yourself to get all your work done, then I believe any person in the USF nursing program has the ability to do it. It's just, do you want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
I was always taught, it's always better to have more than less. Am I going to utilize this MSN that I'm going to receive? I don't know. I really don't. I think you guys know that I got a lot on my plate already, but it was just something that they kind of pitched it like, hey, you're going to take 1 extra class every semester, and in the summers you're going to take 3 classes. And I was like, and in 2 years you're going to have your master's degree. So I was like, might as well, let's do it.
But I feel like some people are worried about that 1 year, I guess, that they're gonna lose out on. And I think a lot of like for me personally, I'm not sure, because like the degree you get out of it, it's not necessarily something that most people think of, like, oh, I'm going to become like an NP or anything like that. It's more of something in management, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a CNL.
Mm-hmm.
You're a clinical nurse leader. I'd be lying to you if I know what the actual demand for that is. But I'm a type of guy, and Toby knows this, that always likes to talk to people. When I'm at my clinical, I always like to talk to the nursing manager. I always like to create relationships and networking them. And you guys are gonna, when you graduate, you're gonna learn that how important it was to create those those networks, those relationships. And I always ask them, like, what do you think? They're like, we really don't use it, or we don't have a position for it. But if I was to be looking at a resume and I saw that, that would stick out. And that's all it is, right? When you apply for a nursing job, I haven't gone through the process, but my girlfriend has, so I know a little bit about it in depth. But your objective is to get that ticket in to the to get an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's either your resume goes left or it goes right. Left being no, right being yes. So it's your objective to make it look as good as possible. So they put you to the right, mm-hmm. so that you can put a face to that application, and then that's when you sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with her experience, what my girlfriend did was she did that. She actually did internship for cath lab in San Rafael at Kaiser. They didn't hire her after, but you know what happened? She created that resume, and a place in St. Helena. It's a little bit far from here. It's in
Mm-hmm.
Napa, but at Adventist, they're pretty big out there, and she's a cath lab nurse now.
Oh, nice.
And for her to be a cath lab nurse as a person that just graduated is kind of unheard of, because you could look at any requirements. You need at least 1 year ED, 1 year of ICU, and then to get into the ED or ICU, you probably need some experience in med surg, unless
mm-hmm.
You get into a good new grad program. But we all know that that's going to be tough, especially if you're trying to get a new grad program in California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Toby knows that, a lot of our friends have moved to out of state.
Yep.
Right? It's a hard reality, Like if you think you're going to be making that $70, $80 an hour in the Bay Area, you got to pay your dues. And
or then some. Some of these places pay even more than that. But
so yeah. It's crazy. Like we're groomed to think that it's going to be financial freedom once we graduate, but it's on the contrary, actually. I don't know how you guys financed your school or whatnot, but even if you didn't, when you get into the real world, let's say you make 100K, Uncle Sam's going to take about 30% of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then what then if you get a car and you get you rent a house, or you buy a house, that $70, $80 don't look a lot anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's that's one of the reasons why when we talked about it, why my plate is so full, is because I was cognizant of that, and I always want to be prepared. And I saw the business that we're probably going to be talking about, and I ran with it while I was doing nursing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because I feel like all the stuff that you're talking about, it's like you feel like you said in the prior, like in the interview, that it was kind of from your mistakes that you've made in the past, and you felt like you wanted to be prepared in the future for anything that happens. That's why you're doing both nursing and your side businesses. But I feel like, is that
definitely just because the story, but not our our listeners. Back in 2008, 2009, I did real estate right out of high school, and you guys, I don't know if you guys were pretty young at that age, but around that time,
yeah, we know the history though, at least vaguely, right? Even if we weren't old
like you guys know, that was the greatest recession since the Great Depression. So it affected my my finances really hard, and I went down the line of bankruptcy. I lost almost everything, and then when you fail, which I felt like I failed in life there, and I had nothing to fall back on. I took it upon myself and promised myself moving forward that in the future that when I do something, I have to have multiple ways out. Mm-hmm. And if you have multiple ways out, you set yourself up for success, or at least less failure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you, I guess, get out of that hole? Because when I ever have something when I'm struggling through something, or if I'm in a really big hole, there's always, like, in order for me to get out, there's always has to be some maybe internal or even external factor that kind of drives me out of it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just going to stay in that hole for a very, very long time. What was that for you, that got you out of all the struggles that you were experiencing? during that time?
My motivation is, I mean, it was different at that time for me. I just had my first child. Shortly after I had my second child. Um, you know, I really can't say, I can't, I don't see myself getting out of that hole if I didn't have that motivation, because, if I failed, they failed, you know, and that's what pushed me to keep trying, to keep on going, so to speak. It was tough in the beginning, because they're babies. So I don't care. Even a person like me, it's tough. You can't do it. Once they were able to, be taken care of by other people, then I was able to, go back to school. I went to community college, and then the rest is, I'm here now. I did the prereqs to get into the nursing program. But after I got into the nursing program, I was like, everyone's like, okay, Joe, shit, you're about to make you're about to
That's
make
okay.
you're about to make a lot of money. You're gonna make a lot of money. I was like, I know they make a lot of money, but I'm still cognitive taxes because I was good with finances before. They're like, but your girl is gonna be a nurse too, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right too. So it was looking like a good situation at the time. We're working towards the goal of becoming a nurse, but then I had that first clinical at Laguna Honda, and I was like, the money might be good, but the smell ain't. No, I'm just playing, but I get used to it. But it's just one of those things where I was thinking, I was like to myself, and I brought myself back into that 2008, 2009 mindset. It was like, do I see myself doing this for X amount of time a week for X amount of years? Is this sustainable? Can I truly say that I'll still love this job at the end of the week? And then I always reached out. I reached out to Ryan. He I don't know if you guys remember Ryan. He was in MSNS too.
Yeah.
He graduated about two years ago. Yeah. He's in LA now. I reached out to Professor Hurley, and I asked him, like, at what point did you start to feel burnt out? And both of them said the same thing. First day.
Yeah.
Well, first day. So like, just hearing that and not experiencing it for myself, but just knowing that these people are very, reputable, especially Hurley, it tells a lot, So then I started thinking like, okay, maybe I should do this and, think of other things where I can, lay back on, because nursing was, the primary. So I was like, I wanted to start a business. I've always been business savvy. I saw my friend, he used to work at a taqueria, and then, we started our food business. It was just to make, everyone has that idea that when you make a business, it has to go off right away. It has to make a ton of money right away, right?
That's the glory of businesses, right? You think everything's gonna work out.
And then if you have that mindset, you already failed.
Yeah.
Me and my friend, our first gig, we made $40. We made $40, and it was we were parked outside of a school. It was a basketball tournament, and no one wanted to give us a chance, right? But that didn't deter me. I was like, okay, you know what? We're gonna change people's minds. On the contrary, an average person be like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. We kept at it, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and then as it was growing, I was getting into my junior one, and then junior two came, and I was like, that's the hardest semester. So, but I still kept at it. I still did it. I killed myself, but, I knew that I had to kill myself right now so that I would have options once I graduate. Mm-hmm. And, if anyone that's listening doesn't know my background, we do have a store now in Stonestown, and we have a food truck right now that's almost done being permitted, and, that all started with literally nothing. I had no loans. If you guys were listening, I had bankruptcy. I got no financial history, so we parlayed whatever money we made into what we have, and then people ask me, why do you still want to do nursing now? I was like, well, that's the problem. When I do something, I can only speak for myself. I make sure I love it. I love nursing. I'm not the best, you know.
Mhm.
But I feel like I could be the best if I wanted to be.
Mhm.
Am I the best in business? No, I'm not. But I think it was, I think Jack Ma said it best, you know. I'd rather have my son good at a few things than the best in one thing. Because if you are good in a few things, you have options. If you're the best in one thing, you're only good at one thing. It's just kind of like nursing. If you just do nursing, if you guys want to just work hard on one thing, sorry, it's gonna hurt. And you know, life's gonna teach you that.
Mhm.
You know,
And I think that transitions well into everything that's been happening, because the last time that I was able to speak with you in person was early this year, right? I think it was January, February time. The last time I saw you in person, Joe, and then you know we were talking about how you're doing with the business, and your success at the time. Everything was at a pretty much at a high. Would you say?
yeah,
And then everything hit, and then you've spoken a few times in some news interviews and given people some insight onto just what's going on
yeah,
as far as this side of everything happening, that really a lot of people I feel like don't get that insight into how people are actually getting affected by the closures everywhere. And I think that that's important that you talk about options, because even when you put in the blood, sweat, and tears into your business and you finally got it running and doing really well, at any time something else can happen, and all of a sudden if you dove completely into that business and said, you know what, like hypothetically speaking, I don't need nursing anymore because I have the business and this is going to do it for me.
yeah,
Had you done that, now all of a sudden with everything hitting, now your options are limited, right? And
yeah,
so even through that, even at your point of success, you still have the foresight that you still have your fail safe, you still have all of your options laid out in front of you in case anything happens to any of them, right?
exactly. If the business fails, then I'm nursing. If I get sick and tired of nursing, I have the business. You know, and believe it or not, even though it is as bad as it is right now in my business, I'd be naive and I'd be lying to you to say that it's the same, that we're making the same amount of money pre-COVID, but we aren't. But believe it or not, the way from my mistakes that I learned back in 2008, 2009, I learned from my mistakes and I made sure that our overhead was low, our business model could adapt, improv, just like a nurse, right? Every situation is different, and believe it or not, we're still seeing not the best profit, but we're seeing profit, and it's one of those things that that I always want to talk to you about, Toby. It's like always be ready, always be ready to adjust to situations. Life isn't A, B, and C and D. It's A, Z, and it goes in so many different ways. But yeah, it's one of those things that I just want to tell everyone,
Mhm.
just have options.
No,
Yeah.
that's an interesting take on it, and I feel like that definitely comes with experience. Because for me, the people that I've kind of been surrounded by, people like my age and like 20 years old,
Mhm.
all we're thinking about is just honestly just nursing, like giving 100% everything we got into nursing, because essentially that's all we know as we transition from like adolescence to adulthood. All we've known is kind of like getting ready to become a nurse, and we've never really thought about having other options as a backup. But I feel like knowing what you've kind of been spoken about right now, I think it might be good a lesson for all the viewers and even for myself to recognize that if I do have other passion projects or other things that I can see myself doing other than nursing, maybe it wouldn't be a waste of time for me to invest a little bit into that and see how that goes, because you never know what's going to happen with nursing in the future as well. You might
Yeah.
have to transition to something else. And like you said, if you feel like you get burnt out in one area, if you feel like one area is failing, you can always come back to another. And I think what you said is great, having options. And that's
Exactly.
something that I'll consider, yeah.
It's just having a balance. I can feel like if I get sick and tired of my business, I can do a little bit more with nursing, and vice versa. That's
Mhm.
how I see it. Like I don't foresee myself, maybe in the beginning, maybe I'll be working 3-4 days a week as a nurse, but I don't past the next 4 or 5 years, I don't see myself working more than a couple days a week as a nurse. You know, if I have to go per diem, then I'll go per diem.
Mhm.
I want to love it still. That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't think I'll accomplish that if I'm working full time doing it. With the experiences that I had at clinicals and whatnot, and some may say that maybe you shouldn't get into nursing. I was like, well, no, I do love it.
Mhm.
I want to keep on loving it. I want to make it sustainable, you know, so that I do my best every time. Because you guys know, you can be a testament. Like 9 out of 10 nurses that we follow, they're pretty mean.
They can
I
be,
mean,
yeah.
well, the ones I have are
some of
pretty
them,
nice. I'm saying,
yeah.
but some of them are, you know, it's true what they say. You know, they eat their young.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so they're highly critical, and if you look at the underlying issue, it's because some of them are unhappy, or some of them, you know, are putting too much time, or they're financially trapped, where they're, you know, in a certain lifestyle that they want to keep up, and that requires them to work X amount of hours, and with that comes burnout.
Mhm.
So
Toby, how are you feeling right now? Like as a new grad, are you kind of concerned with some of the stuff that like Joe has mentioned too about burnout and like your future as a nurse? Do you feel like you should be pursuing different options other than nursing, or right now is it just focusing on nursing right now for you?
Um, I think I'm lucky to have met Joe earlier on in nursing. I think we met when I was still working at in the restaurant in Morigame. What was that? I
yeah,
think
I was with my
we met in
girlfriend.
the spring, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we met in the spring. I just started there. This was a sophomore two, I think,
Yeah.
when we had met, and I think it was nice because we had early on formed our friendship, and we had gotten to talk about pretty much exactly this, right? Like just that nursing isn't the end all be all, and it's always good to have your options open, and not to compare to my peers, but whenever we would talk about resume building and what our plans were for after USF, once you get that the degree and then you pass the NCLEX, what are your plans? And the majority of people are, I want to put in my time as a nurse and we'll see where things go from there. And I think a lot of people, when you look at what they have in their resumes, it's a lot of very applicable experience, right? A lot of people have volunteer experience in hospitals, clinics, or maybe even intern or work as a patient care assistant, CNA, what have you. And then I go and look at my resume and it's like, well, I have some of that. I also have a lot of varied other random experiences, stuff that pretty much doesn't really have any application to nursing unless you really dive into, well, I worked in some service industry jobs, so you as a nurse, you're still providing a sort of service as it's seen in in the United States, where you have that customer service aspect, and then you also have your experiences. My experience as an instructor, where you do patient education a lot, and so the more I looked at it, even though these are sort of random experiences, they still draw from nursing and vice versa. And so then when we got talking, I kind of realized that when we had our conversation, you mentioned how there's a lot more than just nursing, how you were keeping your options open. You're always looking out for the next thing. And so I think I'm lucky that we talked about that, because for me now, even though I've graduated, I've got I passed my NCLEX recently. So I got that done. But it's not just that. Like right now, the job I'm doing is in sales. It's sales for medical devices, but and I do have that opportunity to talk to patients, talk to doctors and nurses over the phone, but it's not the sort of direct patient care experience as I'm transitioning, weighing my options and really looking to see, because I think the mistake that we make a lot of time, obviously my situation is different. I'm lucky and fortunate to have the option and the luxury of time to really carefully evaluate rather than get myself in a situation to burn out immediately after graduation. But just that, recognizing that it's not just about nursing as much as I love. And like you said, you want to continue loving nursing. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where, you sort of quote unquote sell your soul and, you lose all of that passion, all of that drive, all of the love that you have for nursing, and you end up burning out and you end up, becoming disgruntled, but now you're trapped in a situation where you don't have any flexibility, right? And so I think, so really surrounding yourself and being able to talk to people, you know, like yourself, Joe, where some people who are in a situation where you can kind of see, it's not so much that, you know, do as I say, but it's kind of like watch what I do and why I do it and how I do it, and then taking those lessons, right? Like the most motivational people are people where they have their way of doing it. It's not so much that you want to mimic exactly what they're doing, but you want to take those core principles, right? Because what they're doing is probably only going to work for them, right? That's their model.
Yeah.
It's the ideas, it's those core values, you know, like your determination, your drive, your perseverance, and your adaptability to when you're given a situation, rather than, you know, collapse under the stress and impossibility of the situation. You're looking at, okay, I've been through some really bad situations before. You know, I can definitely get through this. And so seeing you pile on your plate, which some people might say, well, that's too much, that's overwhelming, but then you don't see it that way. You see it as, this is my plate, this is what I have to do for me, right?
It's like what, like you said, you know, you take from what you want from people that you want to, you know, you look up to, or you want to get information from. I always look at the very, I look at like Elon Musk and Jack Ma. Elon Musk, what did he say? He said, if I work 80-hour weeks instead of the regular person that works a 40-hour week, I'll be 40 hours ahead of the guy. That's how I see it. I feel like, yeah, I've put so much on my plate during nursing school, but it's to get to the end goal, you know. We can have a podcast in 5 years and I'll tell you that nursing will be an option, not my livelihood. I can say that with almost 100% confidence, that when I do nursing in 5 years, it's not for the financial benefit, even right now. But I could say that to you with 100% positivity that in 5 years, I will not need nursing financially. But it's going to fulfill what I want in terms of, you know, my want to help other people. You know, that's it's when it comes to what we're talking about with nursing right now is I just feel like it's important that we maintain that, because we all came in this, I like to think, to help other people, but for that, in order for that to happen, you have to maintain yourself. You know, we talk about mental health all the time. You know,
No, yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
if you're in a toxic environment and you force yourself to be in that environment, you know, you're going to internalize it. And that's not the way to live. I'll tell you this right now. I'm 10 years older than you guys.
Which
You
is
know,
hard to believe most the majority of the time.
I'm 10 years older than you guys. A lot of my friends out of high school were just like you. Went straight to USF as well. And I asked all of them. It's like looking 10 years in the future. Like, how's everything? And they all say the same thing. That's good. Like, how's nursing? How's everything in your unit? They don't even want to talk about it. You know, they're just done with it. You know, it's you know, they have all the nice things and everything, but
At what cost, right?
At what cost? You know, everyone sees the things that I'm obtaining right now in terms of the food truck and the store and whatnot, but the difference is I'm smiling.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the work. You know, I'm happy with everything. I don't even get paid for clinical. I'm still happy with it. You know, and that's the thing I just wanted to, you know, reiterate to everyone, is just make sure that, you know, there's a balance. You know.
Yeah, and I think you touch on something.
I'm not saying
so
go start a business or whatnot, but have options. You know.
Yeah.
If there's something you
love
have,
what you do. Yeah.
exactly. If you have a passion, you know, just make sure that passion you can monetize it in some sense. You know, you know, like it's one of those situations where it's just about maintaining yourself. You know, I would hate to see you guys in 5 years and all you guys are talking about is how much you hate your job and how much student loans that you've accrued and you're still paying off. I met a nurse, she was 17 years in, still paying off her student loans. I was like, what the hell is going on? Nursing was not expensive 17 years ago, you know? So it just shows you, it's a testament. It's don't lock yourself into one thing, or don't think that just because you become a nurse, all your problems are gonna go away.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something that's so important, that happiness factor, right? You look at all of these, there's so many people that I've seen that, not necessarily nurses, but just people who are out there doing their thing. Some of the most successful people, you look at what they're doing, they're happy, they love what they do, and they might be putting in 60 hours, 80 hours, 100, who knows how many hours they're putting in per week, but because they love what they do, that it doesn't feel like that. One of my favorite people to follow is Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V on Instagram. He always talks about how he hated school and so he didn't do it, but he loves, you tell him if he were to choose 8 hours in school versus 16, 20 hours talking to people all day, he'd choose the 20 hours in a heartbeat, because that's what he loves to do. And then some of the people, the happiest nurses that I met, they're doing it because they love it, right? Not because of the money that they get back from it. When they're putting back into nursing, it's because they love it. So whether it's you love nursing, but your limit is 1 day a week, or you love nursing and your limit is 7 days a week, whatever it is for you, as long as that's what you love, right? And you're not saying that this is what you're doing because you think that everyone should just put in 1 day or 3 days a week in nursing. It's just what do you love about nursing, and how much can you do that, and then where do you need to put yourself elsewhere in order to keep yourself happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you, that's investing yourself in your business and using nursing and kind of balancing the joy that you get from both of those, so that you don't get bogged down by the toxicity or the negativity that comes with either of those, right?
Mm-hmm. And I like how real that you keep it in terms of intention. Because I remember you saying how, all of us young guys, like who are coming into nursing straight out of high school, we're all going to be talking about how, like, why do we want to become a nurse? We always have our backstories, how we want to help people, our passion for science. But then you also brought up the fact that it shouldn't just be about that. As much as passion and interest comes into play, you should also think about your financial sustainability in some sense, because you can do what you love, but if it does not bring you sustainability in the long run, then it might be a difficult choice to make. And that's part of the why you said you chose nursing as well.
Yeah, it's we live in the most expensive zip code. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You have to look at the monetary value in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's the primary is helping other people out, but the secondary is, and everyone's lying to themselves if they don't admit it. It's because of the money. Would you be a nurse in Philadelphia? Do you want to go Google how much a nurse makes in Philadelphia? Google it. It's crazy. It's it's nothing you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've looked up some other states, like over on in the east, or over on the East Coast. Some of the places, and
we can talk about up north in Washington, or we can talk south in New Mexico, where some of these people are going, and you so.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's kind of like an investment into the future. We can't always expect immediate results, immediate payout. It's kind of like sometimes you have to go out of state, get those nursing gigs, get that experience to come back. It's like, because if we
but therein lies what I'm trying to point out is you have to pay your dues to come back here, because we're the only zip code that pays $80-$90 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that's what I'm trying to say is, like, no matter how people want to pitch it, like they did it truly just for because they want to help other people out. There's a secondary. They're realistic. You did it so that you can live a certain lifestyle. My thing is, I was like that. I was you guys' age. I was all about that lifestyle, but my aspirations, my goals are a lot different. My time is, I'm still young, but my time is running thin, and everything I do is not for me. And then if someone says otherwise, they could go to hell. I really don't give a shit. I do this for my family. I do this for my kids. I do this so that I can leave something tangible to them. You know. So it's one of those things.
But you also mentioned that you shouldn't just go in just for the financial incentive.
No.
Like that shouldn't be your primary goal, because I feel like if you go in, it's linked. But I feel like if you go in,
it has to be. You have to love what you do, and it has to have a monetary value where it can fulfill your financial needs. That's all I'm trying to get at.
Right now.
Yeah. At the same time, you have to balance your mental health. Because, like I said, I can't say this enough. Every time we go into a unit in the morning, everyone's all mad. Whether it be the shift coming in, or the shift coming out. Like really? Like, do you see anyone really smiling? Like, be real.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like,
I feel that.
You know, so it's especially, you know, that's just my point of view. I know everyone has their own point of view.
Oh yeah.
I like to take a more realistic point of view.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And you know, going off of that, do you mind speaking of just your journey to kind of your process of finding your passion? I know for you, because you're doing it for your family, you know, your kids, is for people who may not be in that situation, right? Someone who may not have their own family to necessarily fight for yet.
Yeah.
You know, do you mind talking about just that process of finding your drive or your passion? Because obviously yours is very strong, right? You have very your drive for you seems to at times just override anything, any adversity that you're facing, any stress, struggle, whether it's hard or not, because you have that strong drive. For people who might not necessarily have that at this moment, how do you navigate that?
What I can say on that is what I did wrong. I don't know what was right, because, you know, my situation is different, right? I had kids, my motivations changed. But at your age, what direction I went, which was in the wrong way, was, you know, I did it for to live a different lifestyle. Yeah. I wanted all the nicer things in life. And as soon as I did that, once that was my motivation, the result was as empty as the goal. You know, just trying to fulfill financial needs, it do me no good. It put me in a hole. You know, honestly, like if I didn't have my kids, I don't even know if I'd be here. You know, I'm 21 years old. I'm going through bankruptcy. I'm going through foreclosure. That's not a good feeling. You know, so I can't say how people in your position without kids should attack it. I'm just saying how you shouldn't attack it. And that's not one way to attack it. If you're doing it for all the right reasons, yeah, more power to you. But it didn't help me out, no. And I know a lot of people that were my age that they aspired the same way, and it didn't work out for them either. So, you know, that's why I always believed in, you know, I'm a person that doesn't like to one-up people. I'm a person that wants to say, hey, this is where I fucked up, man. You know, like, don't do this. You know, going down the wrong road. I always wanted to just give that blueprint. You know, don't be exactly like me or whatnot. I'm just saying though, like, hey, you're going down the wrong path. Just want to let you know. You know, when we all can admit, like when we do all those online quizzes, and you got a group of friends, and like, who's gonna go first? I go first. Fuck it.
I like that.
I don't care. I really don't give it. Like, you really think you're gonna put an A on that application?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this right now. They're gonna throw that shit to the left.
Yeah.
That's just how I attack life. You know, I want to succeed, and I want everyone around me to succeed. You're only as good as the person right next to you.
Yes. Agreed.
You know, and that's why I agreed to talking to you guys about this, because, you know, Toby's been a close friend of mine for a while. You know, yeah, he's a cohort above me, but I'm 10 years older, but it don't feel like that, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's why it's kind of funny, for people who don't know. You have your people where in the nursing school, you're kind of you're Joe the bro, right? You kind of everyone's bro. But then there's also those people who kind of joke around. They're like, oh, hey dad, how you doing? Because you kind of have that, you have that energy, right? You try to take care of the people around you. Doesn't matter if they're direct blood relatives or not, right? You treat everyone like they're your family. And it's not about lording it over them and saying, oh, hey, you owe me one now. It's just simply you want to see other people succeed just like you want to try and succeed yourself.
And that's how I was back in the day when I was your age. It was like I always did things thinking that people will return the favor, and that's not the way to go. I do things because I genuinely want to be that type of guy that, hey, you can talk to me. You want to talk about stuff? You want to, if you have that type of energy, it reciprocates. I have, when I, like, for example, every time I go to a clinical, I make sure that they remember my name. They might not know my name in the beginning, but they're going to remember my name in the last clinical. That's the worst feeling, when they still don't know your name in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. Is the energy you produce is, hopefully you get it back. If you don't, then just keep being you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to talk about that? You mentioned how you go to clinicals and you encounter your nurses who may not be the nicest first thing in the morning or first thing in the evening shift or whenever your shift is. What things have you found to help you be successful in your time during clinicals?
With the nurses, in regards to the nurse.
Yeah, I mean, just how you carry yourself, right? In the clinical setting.
To be honest, I haven't come across a bad nurse personally. All my, I'd be lying to say a lot of my clinical, classmates didn't, they didn't have the best experience. But for me, it was, I don't know. I think maybe it's because we're guys too. Girls kind of tend to attack each other. That makes sense. But in terms of, for me, like I actually didn't have that much of a bad experience. But I did notice when I did talk to them, the only time they really wanted to talk is when we didn't talk about nursing so much. Like they'll teach.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They'll teach me, like, they'll teach me things in which I wanted, but that came after I kind of personalized our relationship. Like.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, oh, okay, I want to teach this guy this thing now. I want, it's not, I'm not the student that, fuck, you're gonna slow me down.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
What takes me, 2 minutes to take out a Pixis, it takes me 10 minutes now because I gotta show this guy. I try to make, I try to just have that energy where I was more than just a student, and you're just more than just, teaching a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That makes sense.
I definitely agree. I've definitely had those experiences as well. Like when I was going through EMT school and I had to shadow a nurse in the ER, I could definitely tell, like, right off the bat, because I was so eager to learn. I wanted to, like, talk about, stuff about nursing, about, like, certain facts about nursing, bedside, all that stuff. And, like, they were a little, like guarded because all I was asking was just nursing, medical related stuff. But once I kind of cooled down and just talked to them person to person about other things in life, like sports or stuff like that, they kind of really opened up because they really, like you said, saw that, hey, I wasn't just trying to be selfish and just grab that information, grab that knowledge from you. It was more like, hey, I want to just get to know you and I want to just learn from you as a person to person first and then as a student.
Yeah. My go-to was I told them about the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed them pictures of our vans.
Mm-hmm.
I showed pictures of the store and the truck that was being made at the time. And they always look at me and they're like, why the hell do you want to get in nursing then?
Mm-hmm.
I really do it. I was like, and I really do enjoy this. I swear to God.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, uh-huh. And then they're like, it was just funny. It's like, it's funny how, and that's where I kind of tie in, like, the red flags. It's like, okay, maybe it's good to have options.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but it's that's just the person I am.
Yeah, I mean, people I think tend to forget that nurses are people too, doctors are people too, and when you go into clinicals and all you see them as is someone that you can take knowledge from and use for opportunities, they'll feed off of that energy and it'll have the opposite effect, right? But when you see people as people, they might be more likely to just help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like any other work environment. It could be a good one, it could be a bad one. The work environment that you had in that Maragame, it could, it's just a different profession, but it could have the same type of vibe where, if you're working with people you don't like, or you're going into situations, that aren't agreeing with you, sooner or later you're gonna crack,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like any other job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just goes back to just intention, because if you don't have the right intentions going into something, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to burn out, a lot easier and a lot faster. Especially like in nursing, if you go in with the financial incentive being your primary goal, and you keep with that goal for the 4 years, graduate, new grad nurse, I feel like that's one of the easiest ways to burn out. It's like, oh, this money, like it's always like the money thing. But then if you come in with a different mindset of having the passion to help people, of course, with the monetary incentive in vying for sustainability, like if you feel like, yes, I genuinely want to help people, I love the science of it, then I feel like it's definitely easier thing long term.
I feel like everyone has their breaking point. I always like to use Hurley because he's one of the best professors I've ever had in my whole life. Whether it be nursing or anything else, and I think you guys can attest to that. But there's a reason why he teaches right now.
Yeah.
No, I see. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, every nurse that I've ever talked to, the number one thing that almost every nurse has said to me is the money's not worth it. You can't pay me enough to do this. I do this because I love it. And then the people who don't love it, it's because they're tied up, right, financially. But even the best nurses that we all talk to all say, that if it was for the money, I would have been gone a long time ago. And here I am 20, 30, 40 years later, still doing it because this is what I love.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are the people that found that balance, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah, but I think that for us, just
like, that one outlier. I'm just talking about the majority.
No, yeah. But I just feel like for us, sometimes it's hard. Like as me personally, as a 20-year-old, trying to see myself 10 years in the future, I really can't. Sometimes it's very difficult for me to think like, what other options am I going to have other than nursing?
Yeah.
Like Toby was saying, like because I don't have that same motivation in terms of like having kids and just having the drive to support my kids and all that, because I don't have kids. I feel like it's a different thing for me. And
it's very different. But what I do like to just reiterate too is like, as long as you're progressing, if you're not progressing in the professions that you're involved with, whether it be nursing or business or whatnot, I feel like that's going to be a red flag. If you're still doing, if you're in the med-surg unit, and there's no knock to that. There's people that do their 20 years and they retire and they're getting paid the same as they were working when they retire. If that's your ultimate goal, then I'm not going to knock on it. I'm just saying, are you going to be happy with yourself in the end? If you're that type of nurse that wants to aspire to get into, case management or management in itself, or you want to get to a higher level educating, then yeah, as long as you're progressing. I just feel like if you're stagnant, especially you guys are so young,
mm-hmm.
It's tough for me to say that you're going to be the same person right now than you are going to be in 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to say that because, you're going to go through a lot of shit,
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
I think my girlfriend's lucky because she doesn't really go through it because she's in the cath lab.
Yeah. She gets a different perspective for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They're in and out, dude. It's like
yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time they're sedated, so it's everyone's happy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, if you're working like 20 years in a med-surg unit,
mm-hmm.
I know our teachers said that there isn't a hierarchy, but there is a hierarchy. I don't care what anyone says.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why everyone's trying to get a capstone placement at ICU, labor delivery, or whatever, or ED. You know, I don't care. I'm in med surg oncology. I'm happy with it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the most of it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not entitled to anything. I'm a student.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If they told me to go to a skilled nursing facility, then I'm gonna go to a skilled nursing facility. You know, I'm gonna do what I have to do because no matter where I go, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be happy helping other people out.
Yeah. And it's not about being the best ever, right? It's about being the best that you can be.
Yeah, definitely. Toby, you're probably a way better nurse than me.
No. Hey, we all have our strengths, right? We all have our strengths.
You know, we could go back and forth. I'm dead serious, but you know what? I'm always gonna try to give my best, and I feel like that's what resonates with a lot of these nurses that I've come across and my patients that I've come across. You know, like, one time I had to put an IV cath in. You know, I didn't hit it on the first try.
Yeah. Hey, shoot, I missed my first one too.
I can honestly say my patient was like, you know what, give this arm a try. It's like, what kind of patient would say that? But it's because I created that rapport with him and whatnot, and he was nice enough to be like, hey, I'll be the test dummy. Fortunately, I got it on the second time.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the most nerve-wracking experience I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
It's about the humility for sure, because I know I missed my first one. The guy had very twisty, windy veins, and the nurse manager got it with the vein finder, but even she had trouble with it. Poor guy. And then I finally got I did a stint in the ED for one day, and first thing in the it was like 6:30 in the morning, my eyes were barely awake, and the nurse was like, oh yeah, you're gonna put an IV in the patient in that room, and I was like, okay, now I'm awake. Yeah, like luckily got that one, and it's it's nerve-wracking, right? Patients they'll ask you like, have you done this before, and you go, yeah, I have, and then everyone's like, yeah, in the skills lab, right? But you've done the IV before, right? So luckily, got it first try, got the second try, but then I started getting an inflated ego, and so by the time I get to the third patient, he's like, have you done this before? I was like, I put in 2 just this morning, missed it, and I was like, shoot, now I gotta get my nurse. But it's about that humility, right? Experiences like that really teach you that no matter how good you think you are, you still have a lot to improve, right? And so it's like that to me,
better, man.
Yeah, that I was glad though, because then if I had gotten all 3, then my ego would be so full, right? After that, I'd be like, oh, my one time in the ED, and I'm the IV master. I'm putting in IVs left and right. No, it's you have your few successes, and then you have your one that didn't work, maybe because you got a little overconfident, because maybe I went a little too far or something. Who knows what happened with that, right? But it's to recognize that that's okay, and to just take each experience as it is to learn from it, right? Even though I didn't get it, I still learned as much as the times I did get it, if not more, of what not to do, right? Like, and similarly, just in life, right? You've been in those situations where things didn't go your way, and rather than
you said it perfectly, you said it.
Down.
You said it, how you saw you failed, but you didn't take it as a failure. You turned it as a learning, a learning lesson, and that's the best you can do.
Same as you, right? You said, don't, I'm not here to tell you what I did that worked to get me successful. Here's what I did that didn't work. Here's why I didn't get success from what didn't work out. Right?
Well, the best thing you can do in life is, when I learn about people, I don't want to learn about, or people I want to aspire to. I try not to learn about their successes. That's all spoken for. It's their failures. That's where the learning goes. And they all failed somewhere along life, and then if you can learn from those mistakes and avoid them, then I feel like that's winning.
Oh yeah, I feel like failure is like the biggest motivator.
That's why I'm the first one in the group who wants to go. Me. Let's do it.
What's the worst that could happen, right?
What are grades in 20 years from now? What are grades in 20 years? Okay, as of right now, I'm still going to graduate with honors. Or I could have not put all this stuff on my plate and try to go for that summa. I'm not going to get that summa. I'm nowhere close to that right now, but I'm just saying, like, what would you rather have?
No, I feel it. No,
You know
but
what I
I feel
mean?
like you're still doing the best you can do. That's
Yeah.
all anybody can ask
I
for.
did the best I can do with the two things that I put in front of me. You know,
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's why. No, that's why I feel like for people, like for me, when I think of how I approach my grades and my learning experience, it's not about me trying to chase that A. For me, it's like if I have the potential to get an A, if I have the time and the motivation to work hard in this class, then I'm gonna do the best that I can. And if that results in A, that results in A. It's not that I'm gonna chase an A. I'm just trying to do the best that I can do.
exactly. You know, and I'm pretty sure all you can attest, and some of the listeners out there might be guilty of this. At one point in my life, I was guilty of this, not during this nursing school, but you know, everyone's always. I'm pretty sure you guys get those classmates that said, "What you get?"
Yeah.
The most annoying fucking thing I could ever hear. I'm sorry. It don't matter what I got, but you know, I'll tell you what I got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that type of attitude that I'm just trying to stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the nature of
like
the
when you get a
environment.
job,
Yeah.
when you get a job, you have to ask the person that's hiring you has to ask themselves, can I really, you know, groom this person to be the employee that I want to? Can I really stand this person for the next 8 to 12 hours?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, can I really stand this person? When you tell me, are they going to take the person that's obnoxious with the summa cum laude, or are they going to take the person with above average grades that they can relate to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell me.
I think you make a great point because I feel like a lot of us now are very anxious about like internships, volunteering, myself included. I was very anxious about that going into the summer. But I think after having that conversation with you prior to this podcast, I was asking you like, hey, you know, like all of us, like what does it really come down to as a business, as a business owner who hires people and as someone who's going into nursing, what does it really come down to? Because all of us are going to have good grades. All of us are going to have these high stats about volunteering, internships, or some sort of experience. Like, what does it really come down to? How do you differentiate yourself from the pack when you're trying to get hired? And it's like what you said, it's about your personality. It's about, can I stand this person working with them 12 hours every day, you know? It's the personality. It's the willingness to learn, the humble, the humility.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's like, and the way I talk, you know, some may, I don't know, believe it or not, some people, you know, they might not agree with what I'm saying, but that's fine. I'm okay with that because I really don't care what anyone else thinks about myself.
It's your perspective, right?
Yeah.
I have my standard. Everyone has their standard. My standard is to do better and to be the best I can every day. That's my standard. You know, it's not to be measured with anyone because everyone, I respect that they have their own standards. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm just here. Like, if you want to talk about something, you want to go learn from my experiences, I'm here. I got nothing to hide. One thing I'll hide is the ingredients I use on my food. But
yeah, can't give those secrets away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can tell everyone everything, you know, but it's your execution. And you execute the same way. It's just, you know, we're all given these skill stacks, but everyone executes still a different way. Doesn't matter. And it's right there, step by step.
And that's what I really like about USF and like specifically MSNS. I feel like you said, it's not really about yours. It's more than just you. And I feel like MSNS really cultivates that kind of community and culture of like, it's a family. We're all here to help each other out. There doesn't really need to be secrets. It's not very individualistic. Like, just because I get an A, it's not really going to, and someone else doesn't get an A, it's not really going to boast well for, like, it's not really going to matter in the long run. What matters in the long run is that mindset and the lessons that you spread to everyone else and learn for yourself that you can carry on to future generations.
Yeah. And it's one of the sayings that I always live by. It's like, people might not remember my name. People may not remember, you know, what I say verbatim, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And I always try to, you know, with that being said, I always try to, every time my interaction with you, with Toby, I always try to make it as positive as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you associate that person with being positive,
Mm-hmm.
not gonna lie, there's parts of me that shit. When I took psych classes, I thought I was a little bit of a narcissist myself. But that's just because of my drive. There's people that haven't agreed with my methods and whatnot. But in the end of the day, I'm not gonna let anything. I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of me trying to succeed for my family, my motivation.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like you're endangering my family, my kids, then sorry. That's just how things have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of people that I've come across with that never understood my methods, and they moved on, and unfortunately, I gotta move on too.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that like it's very important to help people, but you can't save everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is. I'm just blessed to have have made friends on the way, like Toby, like you now, and Nathan was a big one. Nathan was one of he's 11 years younger than me, but man, that guy, nothing but good things to say about Nathan. One of those people that I had I forgot what class it was. It was one of our core classes, but he's a cohort above me. He's the same as Toby, and then he just every semester he would like, hey, this is how you should attack it. This is how you should approach that. This is if you need to review my notes. I know you're busy, Joe. You're like that. Look at that. That's just selfishness in itself.
Yep.
And just a great personality. He
Mm-hmm.
never tried to hold anything. Back.
Yeah.
Didn't try to hide any information so he gets the higher Hezi score or whatnot. Just laid it all out there, and that's the kind of selflessness that I hope you guys and everyone that you surround yourself with, acts like those people that can be selfless, and that's just what life's about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel with my experiences, just being selfless, care about the other person as much as you want them to care about you.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's not always going to happen like that. You're going to come across some friends that are going to just hate on you for your success, or they just want to not reciprocate the amount of attention that you give them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all right. But the thing is, just know that the moment you start feeling that, you just gotta drop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at your age especially, that's what those are the relationships that you're gonna have to really ask yourself, is this really beneficial to me? You read all about it on Instagram, all these quotes and stuff. Keep my circle small. It's really about you actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing you want is anyone holding you down. If they're holding you down, or if they even make you think even if you think that they're holding you down, then there's an issue already.
Mm-hmm.
You got to cut it out.
No, that's a good lesson. I feel like that is definitely what Toby and I are trying to do on this podcast. Because whether it's the alumni nights or just having like a one-on-one conversation with an alumni and them giving you valuable information, I've come to realize that this information can be so beneficial when we spread it to the masses. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do with the podcast, because these are timeless. Anybody can come back to them, watch them, and listen to the same amazing and helpful advice that you're saying right now. And I feel like that's like our big intention, just to not keep it to ourselves, because it could be so easy for, something that Toby said to me, I could just keep it to myself and just benefit from it and not let anybody else know. But I think the best thing, and I feel like the right thing to do, is to spread it to as many people as possible, so that as many people as possible can benefit from it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's more than just us, right? Like the more I learned in nursing school, the deeper I got, the more I realized, shoot, like there's so many things that I know now, year 2, year 3, year 4, that I really wish I knew the previous years. right? And it's like so many things that I'm like, man, like if I had known this then, how different could things be now? But recognizing that you can't go back. So what's the next step is helping someone else, you know, like Ryan, you know, giving you all the things that helped me at my point in your career, what things, you know, might have made my life a little bit easier, and then seeing you take that and run with it. And now I'm looking like, you know, you're doing such amazing things at your point in your career, you know, Joe, and you too, like, you know, things that I'm looking back and I'm like, man, you know, these are things that I didn't get done, but now you guys are doing the things that, you know, there's the potential for that. And it's like, that's what it's about, right? Supporting people and helping other people succeed as much as possible. And it's not even just nursing students. Like my dad listens to every single one of these podcasts, and he always comes back and talks to me. He's like, hey, you know, that so-and-so you talked to on the podcast, that was pretty cool, or asking for more information on, you know, how do I know them and all that stuff. And I'm sure he'll be happy to see you on this one. Probably wonder when the next time we'll visit you is probably on a weekend when we can get that done. But you know, it's just that's what it's about, right? That sense of community and just helping each other out, because you really never know when someone's going through a rough patch, and if anything that you can do or say to them can help them, then that's, you know, just do that.
You know, with my experience with MSNS, you know, even though I haven't gone to many, you know, meetings or whatnot, I've always been involved with, you know, with Shane and Nathan, yourself, and many other, Kyle, you know, back 2 years ago. And what I can say about this organization is that everyone was selfless to me, without even, you know, expecting anything back. And that's why I loved about this organization. You know, when I started, you know, my business, Shane was like, oh, let's try to find ways to organize events, you know, so we can, you know, try to get fundraising down. You know, I appreciate that, you know. Bon Appetit stopped us so many times, but it didn't happen. But I'm just saying, though, just that selflessness, you know, just to promote each other, you know. That's all it's about. Is like what this organization is about, is just promoting each other, supporting each other, you know, without any type of negativity in terms of looking down on each other or whatnot. You know, just I can't say enough that I was blessed to have you guys, and especially Shane and Nathan, and guide me, you know, through my experiences in nursing school. No, and this is a 33-year-old talking about a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old.
That's what it's about, right? It's not about age. It's not about where you're at in life. Just everyone can help each other in some way. The maturity
level with those two is unbelievable, and I know for a fact that they're gonna go places in life. You know, just that selflessness, and you know, just organically really wanting to help people. You know, help myself. You know, you don't understand how much it meant to me. Like, oh, Joe, I know you got a lot on your plate this weekend. You know, you want to see my notes for it. Yeah, like hell yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's yeah. MSN, I'm gonna really miss it, but I'm always gonna be around.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, we're always around, right? All of us, no matter where we're at.
Mm-hmm. It's about surrounding yourself with the right people, right? That's what it's about.
It's really is. You know, just the moment, I'm telling you, the moment someone lies to you, you gotta cut it out. Straight up. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Sorry, you lose that integrity, you know. And if you're gonna lie, especially with the profession that we're getting into, then you lost all your integrity, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a medication error and you don't report it, what does that say about you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why I've always never been afraid to say I was wrong, to say I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. But you gotta get used to it, because you might there's a big possibility you might make a mistake as a nurse. Mm-hmm. You can't fess up to it, and they catch you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It goes 4 years of tuition.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It says a lot about you. And then maybe the nurse right next to you, who's like a newcomer, who sees that you're so forthcoming and so honest, that's going to inspire them to do the same. I feel that's what it's all about.
So it's make sure that you associate yourself with the right people.
Mhm.
Well, as cliche as that sounds, it happens all the time. We're you know, as people, as human as we are, we always try to please other people. You know, sometimes you just gotta know when to stop.
Mhm. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's a good place to, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe as like just a closing statement, just like some lasting advice that you can give to the viewers who are, starting school right now, whatever place they are at their time at USF. Like, do you have any advice for them?
You know, basically, uh, everything you do, whether it be nursing or any other hobbies that you have, just immerse yourself in it. Be addicted to it. Never lose focus of what the goal is. Never be afraid to be different. Never be afraid to do things that other people may think it's crazy. If anyone was, I could tell you all the stories I heard, or all the times I heard when I first got into my business. Like, you're crazy. You're doing nursing school. You're gonna do too much. You're gonna fail. Straight up, I'm not even lying. And I think it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Just immerse yourself.
Well said. Well said. Thank you very much, Joe. I really appreciate your time here.
Don't worry, I'll be around. You got 2 years. 2 years left, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, I'll be around. No way I won't be around.
All right.